Hey, Joel.
Hey, John.
I was getting ready to ask you if you had LASIK, but your glasses are up on top of your head there. So.
Yeah, no. Yeah. They fog up when I wear the mask, so.
You can sit wherever you want, Carla.
You can come back here.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit here on the end so I can write.
Brian, how are you? Okay, the first time I used the minutes, I had an S missing in Jared Brown, and I had a wrong date here. But the very last one is a policy that we want to have. I don't do my taxes, and I
You do whatever you want.
Can I show you something else on the notes?
That is the weirdest of the room.
So either way.
Well, this one was just sitting here.
It's your cross.
Your crosses.
It's kind of cool, but yeah.
I'm sorry. I did that one.
That's like presidential.
Yeah, I want to I'm going to ask about the five being demolished. I've been worded a little. I'd like to clarify that.
Are you guys scared from the state?
Beers can still be there.
Why would you if you wanted to?
Gotta get something out of my truck.
Hello. Is it okay if I use this chair? Okay. All right, well, thank you.
We need to get you. You need to represent the college life. College staff. Ball State guy? Proud of it.
So, this girls basketball court.
Three of them.
What happened?
A formative institution.
Hospital watched the tape and they were less than 15 minutes.
You watched it?
So it's like, how are you gonna get 18 with the three players?
I was laughing, so I always do that. Oh, yeah, I was working back, well, we figured he was. He had hit that one, you know. Oh, that's, so, will they miss the game? Oh, they're like 10 here.
Even if you have 10, you gotta have 5.
Yeah.
Really?
So they spent the balance of the
It's a good chance to catch you.
on the tropical islands.
They go,
And still, you had the softest duty of anybody during the Korean War. He was on a tropical island. He was a
better just go get it. And if they can come in and get it out, they just need to
So
find
I
somebody who can
blessed
get
and
it.
then
Because then you don't have
went
any
back to
quarantine.
my parents' home.
Yeah, if you've got a balance, yeah.
Said
If that makes sense, you can help.
I go back to college.
Yeah.
Went to the army.
But
My
you
dad
do
was
that,
just
half of them
asking.
get it.
He just could
You
not.
just physically can never hold. So half of them get it, when they're later, it's the other side.
Test positive.
And just couldn't believe it. But then I, you know, I had a good career.
Who?
Do a lot of things and did well in the army. And I still, my father died.
You ever watch it play basketball?
And
Oh, yeah.
I still
For
remember
years,
to this day,
they played it,
If
fifth
my
and
brother
sixth
was
grade.
still alive,
Because
he'd still,
Goes-
he was just gonna wait for that moment in his life where I was gonna say, you know, Dad, I'm really good like the army. I just think he was waiting for that.
Oh, for you to say,
Yeah.
hey, you know, I was.
Look at the little Chamberlain. Look at him.
Interesting.
Wow, here's you, should be our best player.
But I had a good career, really.
Wow.
Did well.
Years.
87 to 09.
I mean, I know she was back
Active duty.
when I was in eighth grade, we played in like sixth grade.
War officers and trained with the British forces, Afghan forces, German forces. I had a good career. I obviously liked it.
Yeah.
What's happening here? Me and we're in South Florida, me and our car.
Just the driving crazy is just kind of a Henry County kind of thing.
I have a 100
But man,
over
they
300
introduced
acres.
those Humvees. I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
So yeah, it's a trip. That's like a building from a mama.
I guess that's just water spots up there, but
Yeah.
They only lost, Bill.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Or what?
So I'm going
We were
to
talking about
West
that.
End.
He said the only hospital.
So there's a thing on the firewall, it's kind of good because it blocks it so that you can't.
That's just some history, because we talked about that, about getting that kind of fired up again. So those are what I found as far as people's votes on the academic wall. So you can look at yours and see what you think, and then we can try to get that in motion.
Is it different than what we remember? So this is just for this.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say it's different. I think we had up to 7 things, and then I don't remember if we ever narrowed it down to the 5. But that just got some history from everybody of people that we thought of. So
Yeah, I'm gonna play around with it and see if that works well. We have, at least I know we have one, and I can see how much they cost. I don't think they're like less than $100. We have a couple of them at the desk. Maybe it'd be good sense. So I'll look into it and see what the best way to do it is. But yeah, we'll try to do that every time.
Hey, what's the first, all we can have.
Right.
And he didn't get that this year, so
He doesn't full
he doesn't,
experience.
he doesn't know
I've
yet.
got nothing doing that.
That's when he'll wanna go on vacation. Oh, can't, you're in school. In the fair now,
Yeah.
am I?
No,
He has lots of friends right
that's
about there.
one's number 2. The attorney's number 4.
Yep.
I know the last name of number 6. I can get the first name.
okay,
My family figured prominently that, but
number 6, huh?
Haven,
Oh yeah,
It's on there.
Betsy, that was it.
yeah. Somebody else replied back. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I know.
That's an old email just for your kind of refresh your memory, people's
You ever read that book?
thoughts on the academic law.
The,
So you can see what you think, sure, Carla, and then we can. We won't necessarily do it tonight, but if we can maybe get narrowed down to 5, and then
yeah, sure.
we'll do something spring semester maybe, or
Oh, yeah.
to either have them do a video message, or if they want to come in person, or whatever.
Made Oprah's book club.
That was it.
I laughed, I cried a little. So many people I knew were in the book. It was so good. Hey, Mrs. Riley, did you ever read this heavy book?
Yes,
Yeah. Did you like it?
I did.
Yeah.
It was weird to read a book that I was familiar
I know.
with things.
It felt like the moral knife cutting for it. And there's so many people I knew from the book that they made it.
It was weird, but I did like it, yes, I did.
All right, I'm showing it is 7 o'clock, and so we will begin our meeting. The first order of business is to open a public hearing regarding ratification of the Classroom Teacher Association contract. It's a legal requirement, so at this time, I'd open the floor. Anyone that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to the ratification of the contract that's been negotiated is free to do so. And I don't want to speak in opposition, but I have a question. Page 21 of the contract. I know we've had different issues on this topic regarding credit for service. Paragraph 2 just says teachers will receive credit for full years of service in accredited schools. And I guess my question for people that are more education oriented than I am day to day, if we just say accredited schools, is that clarify some of the issues that we've had in the past with whether or not things get counted?
He has 120 days inside the contract at accredited school as well.
But that's what I want to make sure.
It's in there to clarify what we had happen.
Okay, so we're good there. Okay,
We're good there.
all right. Anybody else have anything on the contract? Last call. If not, we'll close the public hearing prior to ratification of the CTA contract. And with that, we can begin our regular meeting. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll start it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is approval of the agenda. The agenda's been circulated. Are there any additions, corrections, modifications to the agenda?
Did you receive an additional resolution for extracurricular pay? Or, I'm sorry,
Professional development.
yeah, there you go, yeah.
Did you guys get it? It was in the packet with the, new minutes.
I'm sure I have it then. Yes.
Did everyone?
3122.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll add 31 policy 3122 to new business. Anything else on the agenda? Okay, if not, we'll move to approval of minutes. We had some minutes in your packets. See our October 12th public hearing. September 14th, public meeting.
It's actually
Or that's right. I remember that. We had our dates wrong. October 12th, October 14th. Questions, concerns, modifications to the let me look here. Just noticed something.
There's also one from the 22nd too.
For the budget.
Okay, the 22nd, we just need to change the year. It says October 22nd, 2021.
Okay. I didn't catch that one.
I just did, so.
Okay.
Anything else on the minutes?
I said one, I guess clarification on, under superintendent comments on the October 12th. It just says Pod B was demolished. We gotta just clarify that not all of Pod B was demolished. It certainly appears that there's a good portion still there, so maybe, you know, the relevant parts of Pod B were demolished. I can show you later. People are reading this 20 years from now, they might be confused.
Anything else with regard to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the various meetings as they've been amended?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, and I'm not even going to try to read the dates, but the minutes that are in your packets, as they've been amended, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll get those signed and finalized. Board president's comments, good to be back in person. Didn't have any real symptoms, so, but good. And then, I guess I just want to note, mention the volleyball team. And obviously the season didn't end as they had hoped, but a very nice article in the Courier Times. I don't know if you guys read it, about from Dave Risley, and I thought it really cast our team and the administration in a very good light as far as being very forthcoming with the, I guess, initial positive test that then became a negative, and unfortunately it didn't work out in our favor. Other than I think it built some goodwill with some of the other schools in our sectional that we went to great pains to do the right thing and not take any risk with their health. So I appreciate Steve and the team, and kept the scoreboard for them all year. So wonderful group of young ladies going through there, as John knows, parent of one. So just appreciated watching them and how they conducted themselves, and sure would like seeing them go on, but they did the right thing in a tough circumstance. So appreciate that. Mr. Crevison, superintendent's comments.
Well, there is a certain degree of demolition that went on, but it's being put together incredibly quickly. I think that as you were in here and we got the bids and we got some, this has been charmed so far, so I'm not gonna go too far, but they're starting to work on the outside entryway, all the interior spaces on the south side of Pod B have been completely taken apart. They're reframed, they got studs in there, they're running plumbing, electrical. They're fixing a lot of things, actually connecting walls all the way from the floor to the ceiling, And they make a mistake, they don't hide it, they get on it. It's been a good group to work with. They're very, very early. They communicate very well. They communicate very frequently. Obviously, with Mrs. Dickerson, who's in there, and been very pleased. Not just as it came under the cost, but the tempo at which they're working out there is very satisfying. Starting, as you can see, not starting well into the roof on the high school, which is a huge project, and lots of people up there, up and down, coming along. We have a good view of it progressing really from here, and there'll be days when there's like 60 people up there, and then other days when there's fewer people. Zoe had a little incident I want to share, but for the most part, there's the drilling noise that's not too bad. People comment on it and say, hey, we're glad to see things happening. There are times in a couple places where it's been enough where you're not able to necessarily communicate well. But again, they are here bright and early. They work well. We're very pleased with that, and it's coming along very well. And then with the materials we chose and the way they're going to do it, it'll last for a very long time. So both those projects move along very well. I will add bargaining, and this, once we'll talk to it. It's a good contract we're bringing to the board. It's been ratified by the association. We have to submit it by the end of the week to the state, and then it'll take 6 months to go through it and see if we have made any statutory mistakes. That's common. If you'll recall, last time we had no mistake. We had no errors that need to be corrected in our submission of the contract. That in mind, if you keep it simple, you don't want to wildly change one thing here, there, to the other. It just makes things easier, which helps in any small school. What we will be doing tonight is ratification. It's already been ratified by the Teachers Association. Like I said, it's a good contract, and obviously the school administration recommends that the board adopt it. And those are all my comments.
All right, thank you. CTA, we already touched on the contract, but anything other than that, or you want to give us your perspective on?
I think the teachers were really happy with how the contract turned out. We had good voter turnout, and everyone who voted it was unanimous to pass the contract. And then just a few days right after that, we were right back into discussion. So we had a busy few weeks there.
It's hard to allege voter fraud if it's unanimous. I mean, we can't really. Well, no, that's good.
That presumes everyone is not the
So,
No,
all
it's good. It's always been good, and it's always been professional bargaining with the Classroom Teachers Association since day one I've been here.
all right, very good. Elementary report.
Mr. Krausen already talked about construction, and so we put some pictures out in our weekly update. You've been seeing those out every Wednesday to highlight different things that are going on. That was at a request to parents or a survey result from parents. So we're starting to see walls and starting to see the shape of it. So that's
Good.
nice. I will say the construction crew has done a great job of keeping us informed with what's going on. If it's going to be loud, it really hasn't been that loud, but if there's going to be anything out of the ordinary, have a very good relationship with them, and so greatly appreciate that. We also had parent-teacher conferences 2 weeks ago, last week, in October, right towards the end of October. And at the elementary, we require to have 100% participation from our staff, and so we're almost there. We're still working on just a couple of parents and families that we need to get in touch with. We ended up changing that just to the rise of COVID cases and for the cleaning to happen. To where we change those to either virtual or phone conferences, and so teachers work to make sure like I said, I've got a couple still working, but we did have almost 100% of families contacted, so that was good. So those are the biggest thing at the moment. Every day something different, especially right now in the COVID world. So no, we've done a good job so far, I think.
Okay. if you remember our vision meeting, I said, you know, kind of how the board hears things. So I was at dinner with my wife, and somebody that I honestly didn't know, but my wife told me that they worked at the elementary, but said that the HVAC, it'll be real hot in some areas one day. And is that just part of the process, and are we just going to have to kind of grin and bear it till, because I saw somewhere else in our packet that, you know, it's going to take a little while for this whole project as far as HVAC to be done.
So what happens at the moment, from what I understand, is we have a company that is reprogramming the controls. So we can now see how hot it is in the room or how cold it is in the room, depending on it. That was a missing part. So we don't, at Blue River, don't physically own the controls yet. So if teachers communicate to Mr. Parmalee and myself, then Sam will email the company, and so that they can look at it and they can change it. To me, it seems to be more rooms than not, and of course, the outside weather fluctuating isn't helping right now. The past couple of days, it's been very warm in a few classrooms. I allow our staff to go outside or to move if needed. But then when the weather changes, it seems like it takes a second. So from my understanding, the company that's been in here, they're very good with working with us. And if you see him in the building, he'll go down and check a room right then and there and email. So I personally have been told it's still in the process of being fixed. And once we have that control, then we'll be able to make those adjustments. But right now, they communicate to us, we have to communicate to the company, and they haven't handed over the control piece to us yet.
Okay.
I think from what I understand at the end of the project, because we have some units that have been updated and replaced in certain areas and some that aren't. From what I understand at the end, the company that's making the controls will give us a final report that says these units may need replaced or they're having some other issues besides the control factor. But that's, I think, from what I've been told, that's typical protocol for them at the end of one of these projects. I don't know when the end, I forget when the end is for it.
I thought I saw March.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's later.
Right.
On, so.
Okay. But you're comfortable with how things are progressing and they're keeping you in the loop, and we'll just have to grin and bear it for a few months.
I think the hardest part is, given everything that everybody's going through right now and a pandemic, things like cleaning and temperature, they're just that one more thing that people, it's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's easy. It's just that extra thing when we're already doing, it's just uncomfortable at times, and I don't like that, but I think for the most part, people are handling it pretty well, and as long as we report it, I mean, that's all we can do at the moment is report it. And so I'm just trying to make sure make sure you let us know, because we don't walk around with the thermometer every day to check it. So please just, you're not going to bother anybody. Email us and let us know.
Okay.
So.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Dickerson? Okay. High school report. Don't have a high school rep here. Zoanne or anybody want anything else we know of going on at the high school?
Things have been running pretty smooth. I mean, we did parent-teacher conferences as well. We kept a spreadsheet on who we contacted and like correspondence between guardians and the teachers, and we could all share that, so there was quite a bit done during those e-learning days. So other than that, I think things are going pretty well.
Okay.
You gonna bring up your roof?
My room?
Your roof?
Oh, the roof? The roof over my room?
Yeah, there's a hole in it.
Okay.
That's flavor. That's flavor to it.
So last week, my kids, we started Wednesday morning, and the kids are like, Mrs. C, there's sparks flying in your shop. And so I turn around, and sure enough, there's all kinds of sparks flying through my shop. So I walk out there, and they're cutting through my ceiling in the shop. I had no idea they were doing that. So I had a couple kids. I had a bunch of stuff underneath I did not want to catch fire. And so we got all that moved out very quickly, called the office. They sent one of the construction guys down. They were taking a piece out of the roof, so they were in and out of my room all first period and second period. They did keep somebody in there to make sure my kids weren't in the way, because stuff was falling through the hole in my ceiling. And so that was definitely eventful for me. Everyone I talked to, though, was very polite. And then I just don't think they're used to dealing with my situation back there. And so we have kids, obviously, that go in and out, because we go to the barn every day and we're outside. And so by the end of the day, they were throwing stuff off the roof right over my classroom door. And so just kind of had to remind them that, hey, we use this door and we walk. I don't want a kid to get like hit by debris falling off the roof that they're just tossing. And so last Wednesday was very eventful, but I think we got everything worked out with the architect and the company, and
Good.
I haven't had any incidents since then. So.
Well, I appreciate you guys in all seriousness. I mean, I know this is not convenient, but it's a long-term vision that it's going to be better. And I know you guys understand that, but like Lori said, you know, there's days where it's just that one more thing. Somebody cutting through your roof, it's just kind of annoying. I'm sure it's got to bother you. So I appreciate that.
I know Mr. We've had some questions at the elementary today. Mr. Robinson sent out an email about potential of if we were have to go virtual. That was just a communication tool. It's not, I mean, at this moment it wasn't a predictor, just if we are in communication. So I know we fielded some phone calls today about are you going virtual? I mean, at any moment we can go virtual depending on the health department and kind of their recommendations. So at any moment that can happen. That was just communicating because for the high school, they haven't had, we spent August in virtual learning at the elementary, the high school didn't. And so the high school, that was just his communication of saying, this is what it will look like if we do go, which is going to be very different than it looked last spring. The elementary building won't look quite like that. We're going to continue to do ours like we did in August if that were to happen. But it was just a precautionary email just to let people know here's what will be expected if that is needed. But that was I just know we took a couple of phone calls today with people concerned, and watching in Henry County and the area around us just concerned. So.
And am I right that as of today, we're the only county school still in person? Shenandoah's supposed to come back next week in person, but they're out right now, and then Tri and Knightstown are both virtual. So hang on as long as we can. So. Anything else? High school questions from anybody? Technology report, Mr. Greer. I know we got some changes in the technology department. We'll get to those in a minute, but anything that you want to update us on or tell us about that's been going on?
The biggest thing that we took care of is we had the replacement of all devices for the students. I don't know if Mr. Hardy talked about that last month or not, but we sent in all of the old devices that we purchased 4 years ago because we replaced them with new ones. They came and picked them up last week. They were in and out pretty quick, and we were supposed to receive a check from them for those devices to kind of pay back for the newer ones that we purchased. So we're excited about that. We've had very little issues with them from the kids, and all of the changes with the leadership and stuff, you guys I'm sure are aware of, and we can talk about that whenever. I'll be available for questions and help however I can.
Okay. Yeah, we got the personnel reports coming up, but you know, I'm sure I speak for everybody and everybody can chime in, but you know, you and Mr. Hardy have done a wonderful job, have totally changed the perception and the outcomes of the technology department here, and really led us to be able to go online without too many hiccups, and just appreciate what both of you have done. I know he's headed out, and we'll try to let him know our appreciation for him, but obviously you'll be stepping up into a different role, and looking forward to that for you. But I just want to make sure that you know that how much we've appreciated your work and Mr. Hardy's, because you really got us from point A to point Z almost. You know, you really is seriously. I mean, you've new initiatives, a new phone system, and you know, we don't hear any grumbles about, which is, you know, it just happens, and it's wonderful. So thank you both. Anybody else? Anything technology? Maintenance. I know Sam's not here. Any updates maintenance-wise we need to be aware of other than construction?
Construction, you'll see new lights on the front side of the high school as you go out. And we're getting new lights in the back elementary facade and then they're between the two buildings. Lots of other maintenance. We had a wastewater plant inspection today with no issues, which is the norm for us now, but as we all remember, that was a project. But this is routine. We got it. We'll get it back. I don't know how to talk about it, but we get inspections from the operator. It goes through their channels, and it's really, since we just did the big fix, there's been no issues. You go back there, you don't smell it, you don't hear the gurgling. It's passing all of the standards. We're unfortunately, we are still under an agreed order to do testing, which is expensive and it costs the man hours to take samples to our lab. When at this point we know we're compliant. It's lingering from the previous condition it was in, and as soon as we're out from under that, it'll be money saving, and it'll just be the final step. The time it's okay to consistently compliant and release this from the agreed order.
Okay. All right, any questions on maintenance?
Can I throw one thing in there?
Yeah.
After seeing poor Sam wrestle with them for a few days. So he did install, some bottle fillers at the high school so they can fill their bottles. But they only were like compatible with our newer water fountains, like by the auxiliary gym.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to rip out like the whole, like all of the old water fountains. He did a great job because he really had to wrestle, like getting those tore out of the wall, and I felt awful for him. Spent days getting all those out, and I think Zach was working.
Yeah, we have some in our building too.
Yeah, so the kids love the new bottle fillers.
Good.
So it's been a great addition.
Yeah, a few of them had literally been nailed into
Oh, yeah.
block, when they were put in the first time. So it was very difficult to
Right.
do that for a few of them.
Anything else on maintenance? If not, we'll move to our consent agenda. First item is the resolution 2020-11-1, the financial report, which is in your packet. Questions or concerns on the financial report?
So that CARES Act stabilization, is that a draw we get once a year, twice a year?
We reimbursed at the time, and we have reimbursed, it was for the devices that we purchased, and we paid that bill at the end of last month. So that reimbursement request was submitted the end of last month. I'm hoping it comes in the middle of this month.
Okay, so we gotta expend before that
Yes,
would be.
we have to spend it before they'll give it back.
Okay. I just noticed it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a
so-
big one.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Very big one.
I'm curious why, we use different companies to lease photocopiers, just curious.
Pretty much all.
We use Lever for all of the copies, I believe. So is there one that I'm not aware of?
I saw with payouts, the administration in high school, the money went to Leaf.
It's kind of like Weber is the company that we get the copiers from.
Okay,
Leaf is the financial lease company that we pay the money to.
okay, cause one had Weber, I was
Yeah,
simply
yeah.
curious.
And Weber still comes in as
Service,
services.
okay.
And so we pay Weber when they do that service, but the actual lease payments go to Leaf.
Thank
They're the financial, the lenders, I guess, is the best
Okay.
way to put it.
Thank you.
I had a question, I guess, as I looked at these reports, and last month in Eric's packet, he had stated he thought that revenues would be down this next year due to COVID. And I don't know, maybe if there's a better way to do this, or if I can look at it, but when I look at the financial report and obviously the claims report, it really doesn't give us any picture of the revenue side and where we are. As so as we move into January and into 2021, I guess what I'm wondering is there a way that we can maybe have like a one pager that just says, our budgeted revenue is this, because we start out with what we asked for, which we never get. So then what we get, our approved budget, and I realize there's going to be fluctuations, and as we start to look at this, you can probably help explain those. But like if we had where it said, our revenue coming in 1/12 of the yearly revenue should be X, and so in theory we would see that because, as revenues drop, we can't control a lot about our revenues, but at least then we can maybe know that we need to better watch our expenditures. I mean, if it's off by 1%, I'm not worried about it. If it's off by 10 or 15, I am worried, and we don't know until we see it. So,
Our basic grant payment will be adjusted in November and December. It comes from the adjustment in November and December will be for the drop in ADM. So that number's going to go down, we know that, we're just not sure what that number is yet.
Right.
So they'll do that adjustment during November and December for what we should have been receiving the July through December time period. Then it will go up a little bit for the first half of next year. However, we have our special ed count, which is December 1. And I think, I won't swear to it, I think maybe February or March is then when they will adjust our basic grant payment based upon what our special ed count is. So that, all of that will, but you will definitely see a drop on the financials next month for our revenue for this month. But we can give you that information for what it's going to, what they're projecting it to be then for the rest of this time period until we get more reports in.
Okay, yeah, and I don't want to, create a huge process, but I think if, at least from my perspective, and you guys can chime in, if it's just me that thinks this is a good idea, then we'll forego it. But if we could see, kind of the revenue stream as it's coming in compared to budget, and then, if I have it in front of me, then you can explain to me, and then, maybe we also need to see on there what the current enrollment is each month. I mean, that ought to be an easy thing, and then how many are virtual, because is we still at the 85% for virtual, or are we, did the governor change
I
that?
think it's been changed.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's a
wondered
bit,
if it's due to COVID, but our enrollment numbers are they're only counted twice a year. So they're not, like, to track them every month is fine, but it won't match.
I understand that. I guess I'm just thinking, what are we seeing? Right. If our numbers are down, but we see that the enrollment's going up, the money will catch up, or vice versa, and maybe we could head something off, or at least kind of know what's going on. I don't know. I guess maybe we just start with the revenue. If we could see, kind of our, month to month, what's the revenue side look like? And like I said, I don't need a big, at least from my opinion, I don't need a big full-blown analysis. Just here's 1/12 of the revenue, here's what we came in, here's what we thought would come in, and then you can fill us in on the timing issues and things like that. And that way, if things are going better or worse than expected, we'll know exactly how much. Just kind of want to operate on data and make sure we know what we're doing. Does that make sense to you guys?
I'd like to take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be something we keep doing forever, but just to kind of watch and,
I kind of do that every month anyway. I just kind of figure up whether we're going, which way we're going, and this month took a big hit down. A lot of them do this with the computers, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's 6 figures.
okay, any other questions on the financial reports? If not, is there,
We accept resolution R 2020-11-1 as presented. Second.
motion and second, anything else? If not, all those in favor of approving resolution 2020-11-1, the October financial report, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, resolution 2020-11-2, claims report. Which is in your packet, standard format. Questions or concerns on that? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the claims report. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting resolution 2020-11-2, the monthly claims report as presented, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on, resolution 2020-11-3, personnel report. 6 items listed. Resignation, certified staff member Kayla Miller, special education teacher, effective 10/21/2020. Resignation of non-certified staff member Ty Hardy, IT director, effective November 13th, 2020. Hiring certified staff member Lindsay Louder, special education teacher, effective December 13th, 2020. Resignation of extracurricular staff member Sherry Willis, 7th grade basketball coach, effective 10/19/2020. hiring of extracurricular staff member Lindsey Williams, 7th grade basketball coach, effective 10/19/2020. And transfer of non-certified staff member James Greer from assistant IT supervisor to IT supervisor, Blue River School Corporation, effective November 16th, 2020. Questions or concerns regarding personnel report?
We accept resolution 2020-11-3 as read.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions regarding personnel report? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the personnel report as presented signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Greer, congratulations. It's official. All right. Okay, next is our transfer of funds, fairly standard at this point. Resolution 2020-11-4. It's being proposed that we transfer $48,149.32 from education to operations for October 2020. Is there a motion with regard to this resolution? Motion and a second. Anything else? All those in favor of adopting resolution 2020-11-4, the monthly transfer from education to operations, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Old business, disposal of Mount Summit building. Mr. Harvey and I talked a little bit today. We had Mr. Bauman reached out to Joel and indicated that he was interested in leasing the building to do the project that he's thinking, to do some construction and train. I believe it's veterans to do carpentry and some other work. He sort of acknowledged his counter offer to us was somewhat in jest. So I think Joel and I are still kicking it around, and I'll let Joel chime in here in a minute. But, you know, if we lease it to him, and I think what he's proposing anyway is essentially a no-cost lease other than he would pick up all the carrying costs. So he would carry the insurance, you know, mowing, maintenance. He would do some basic repairs, fix the leaky roof, do some things like that. He didn't really suggest a time frame. We were thinking 6 months to a year, but it's contingent. He wants to have a phase 1 study done. I thought we had a phase 1. We had somebody. Okay, did we have that in our possession?
I can take a look if you have here somewhere.
Because I was gonna say I thought we had the EDC. That guy came out and walked through and everything. Okay. So at any rate, he wants a phase 1, and then you know his proposal wasn't really clear if the lease or his purchase after the lease would be contingent upon what the phase 1 said. Although I would assume that would be the case, because the phase 1 is basically, some people call it a scratch and sniff. They nose around and see what issues you have, and then the phase 2 would be the kind of the plan of remediation and how to fix those. So if the phase 1 is definitely going to show there's asbestos there, there's a fuel tank there, maybe some other things, and so then, you know, he would have to figure out what that's going to cost. So I guess I'm rambling on here, but we're trying to figure out if the lease makes sense, or maybe if he's willing to take the risk on the environmental and we can disclose that in a way that protects the corporation. If he's willing to take it, maybe our best move is just to deed it over to him. So you want to chime in with your
I don't
thoughts?
really have a whole lot. I mean, I think you summarized well what we talked and what the discussion has been with me. I mean, obviously, I think, like you indicated, that he had offered to lease and to get the phase 1 report done, and I tend to think that if the phase 1 report discloses something that's going to be too much of an obstacle to carry, then I think at that point he'd probably let the lease expire and the property would still remain owned by the school corporation. But he did clearly offer to, you know, do some, at least some securing of the property, and that would cut that cost for the school corporation during that time. That even if it was just a lease and he ultimately didn't end up taking title to it, it would at least cut some cost for some period of time.
So I think we passed a prior resolution that authorized Joel and I to sort of negotiate, but I think what I'm thinking is that, you know, Joel and I can work with Mr. Bauman, see if we can nail down exactly what his proposal is, see if he's willing to take the building if we went back to that approach, and then try to have a more of a firm recommendation for you in December of what we kind of think. So if anybody has any thoughts, questions, we can entertain those now, or you can email me or email Joel. And Joel's kind of talking to him, and then Joel and I are just kind of bouncing things off each other of what makes sense. I mean, I was hoping we could squeeze a little money out of the building, but we may not be able to, and it's got a lot of issues. And if we could really get rid of those, and if he can make something with it, then maybe that's the best thing.
That night he spoke to us, he seemed to be rattling off things that I would think that phase one would have, you know. He seemed to bring up some things when he was talking about how much it would cost with different issues.
Yeah, we don't exactly hide it. If you remember, there's a sign at the end of the hallway that says, "This door contains asbestos, do not open." So it's not exactly like we're being sneaky about it. So
I think he walked through with Mike too.
he did, I'm
When
pretty sure.
Mike was there and all they
He walked through with me too.
he was you as well, yeah, so he's been through the building.
Yeah, he knows what it is.
Hmm.
But we are spending several $1,000s just to watch it fall apart. So there has to be some.
My recommendation would be to just dispose of it. We're not gonna get anything that's gonna keep costing, but when you guys see what you can do, if you can get him to pay a little or get the deed out of the corporation's hand, I think that's the best bet.
Yeah, and that may be our best day is to just hand it over to him if he's willing to take it. And
Because you're always liable, even if he puts insurance on it, it still belongs to us or somebody, you're always up for a civil suit or something, so.
And it has been broken into since we moved away.
Yeah, there's kids climbing on top of it all the time.
Yeah.
okay, all right. Well, we'll try to have something a little more definite for you in December. And then I added back the academic wall. I circulated an email to everybody. You guys had a chance to look at it. Just kind of a refresher. People chimed in with their nominees, and so we'll kind of regroup on that now that you've got that in your brain and see if we can get an initial group that we want to recognize and then decide how to best to do that. If that's, especially with the age of COVID, maybe it's a video message from each of them that, you know, classes could play at their leisure and, you know, just hear that there's, you know, some success stories coming out of Blue River, making it big on the world stage in some cases. So, I don't know, we'll keep that moving forward. Any questions on either of those things? Okay, brings me to new business, approval of transfer students. Were there any no transfer students? Next order of business is to ratify the 2021 collective bargaining agreement. So we've talked about that, and it sounds like we have a good contract, and our teacher partners are happy, we're happy. So is there a motion with regard to ratification of the contract?
So moved.
Motion is second. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of ratifying the 2021 collective bargaining agreement with the CTA as presented signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And last thing, which we added, is policy 3122. So Nisha, you want to?
Alright, policy 3122, administrative guidelines regarding corporation-sponsored professional development. These guidelines apply to teachers at Blue River Valley School Corporation who are participating in professional development that is directly related to the instructional needs of the Blue River Valley students and staff. These guidelines only apply to pre-approved professional development which is provided or sponsored by Blue River Valley Schools and is related to improvements in instructions, best practices, and current pedagogy. Teachers at Blue River Valley Schools shall be compensated for professional development when it is offered and accepted or when attendance is required. The administrative team may direct teachers to participate in certain professional development programs if directed by law or the school administration. Teachers will be compensated for professional development at the rate of $60 for up to 3 hours and $120 for up to 6 hours.
All right, that is policy 3122. That's the first reading. I don't know if there's any urgency to this. Sometimes we'll suspend the rules or we can pass it next month.
Urgency that I would appreciate it.
Okay, so is there a motion to suspend the rules of second reading?
So moved.
Okay, got a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
You're looking at, we suspend the rules on the second reading, that way we can pass it tonight.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Robert's Rules of Order, so we don't have to wait a month and have it read a second time.
Why I say that is we're wanting to do some professional development for staff, and this would get them paid,
Okay,
at a rate that's more compensated.
okay, so happy to oblige on that. So we've suspended the rules. All those in favor of adopting policy 3122 as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so policy 3122 stands adopted. Anything else we need to cover tonight? Okay, if not, we will stand adjourned until November. Thank you all. Oh yeah, December. It's not Thanksgiving yet. It's really not November yet. It can't be. 70 degrees outside.
Although, 78, I thought my days were like being late this year were over.
Can't like read a book about it.
It said 78, I'm like, I gotta get one more day.
There's
I
so-
wish we're